Welcome on a beautiful Tuesday evening to gorgeous Rio Town, Lansing, what we locally refer to as the Riviera of South Lansing. And you are here to celebrate passing the laurel from one wonderful poet laureate to the next. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. Welcome to this space. Thanks for being a part of this celebration. While I say words for about a minute, just if you have an empty seat next to you, could you raise your hand? Oh, what? We actually have some empty seats. Okay, so if, do we have any pairs next to each other? No. So if you're flying solo and you are standing in the back, you can take one of these. So come and get it. Yes. Yeah. Anyway, cool. Thank you very much, everybody, for being here. It's my job to welcome you to this space, along with my partner Gina D. I want to welcome you to the Robin Theater. We are a theater. We are a part-time used bookstore, occasional erotic puppetry venue, and a community gathering space. That's what we're doing here. Now I've done it. Hey, and we'll bring the erotic puppets out. But y'all, what a treat! I really have a lot that I want to say, but I'm not going to. Instead, I'm going to say, turn your phones off, silent or vibrate. Please put your phones on silent or vibrate. They like to go off at the emotional crux of a moment, and I've seen it happen. So now's the time to make sure that's off. Yes, and a lot of people to thank, but I don't have a cue card about that. So I'm going to say thank you all for being here. We're going to celebrate tonight. We're going to bring some wonderful poets to the stage, and we're going to get really loud about stuff. And so just as a test, just for fun, I want you to get really loud to welcome to the stage Bob Trezise.
Thank you, Dylan. It's not the usual reception I get. Some meetings recently. My name is Bob Trezise. I'm president and CEO of LEAP, which is the Lansing Economic Area Partnership, and we're a regional economic development organization. And by now you might be saying, and why are you here tonight? And I just want to take a brief moment to try to explain that. LEAP really is a weirdo kind of economic development organization. We do tall buildings and plants and big jobs, and I think all that really matters. And if that's the brick, though, it has to have mortar to hold that brick in place. And at LEAP, we really believe that that mortar is placemaking and people and diversity. And some really tangible examples of that are that a lot of people don't know about us, but we landed the largest grant last year from the state of Michigan to do 12 huge placemaking projects that are farmers markets and facade programs and enhancement of main streets from all around the area. We also got a huge grant only recently, and we are going to be paying substantially more, 25% of all the child care providers, workers in the entire region are going to get a big pay raise because of what we do. In a little way, we helped with a lot of partners start this Lansing Poet Laureate program in the very beginning. And so I just want to congratulate all the poet laureates who are here tonight. It's remarkable to see, a tree blossom like it is from that seed that was originally planted. And I think all the poet laureates have been amazing, their own voice, their own way. And they have all been spectacular, bringing a new voice to Lansing, revolutionizing Lansing is the way I look at it when I look at a room like this tonight filled with spectacular people. And being a hometown kid growing up in the city, literally, I mean, it really means a lot to me, and I know it means a lot to you. And so I'm just so thankful to the Lansing Poet Laureates, each and every one who has taken the program to a new level. Ruelaine, who is kind of the outgoing now Poet Laureate, we do have a little bit of maybe an extra special relationship. And Ruelaine and I were at a writers' conference, I don't know, 10 years ago now, it's hard to imagine. But sometimes there's a little seed of an idea, and that's all we had. And we first talked about, we were disgusted that the state of Michigan did not have a poet laureate and other states did. And there was maybe not a lot we could do about that, but then we said, oh, by the way, we don't have a poet laureate. And we could just really break all the rules and not ask for permission to do that. Why don't we just do it? And we did. And here we are today, and I'm in awe and amazement of every one of you. I think you're incredible, your creativity, and I absolutely believe, like those big buildings and jobs and other programs, that this is equally and as much as all those are uplifting everybody and really making a big difference, moving us all forward in life. And I'm just really appreciative and respectful and so glad that LEAP in a little way can participate in that. So Dylan, you're amazing here. This facility, this theater is incredible. Thank you to you and your vision, pioneer down here in Rio Town. So thank you to everybody for allowing me to say a few words tonight, and let's celebrate Lansing.
Hi everybody, I'm Megan Martin. I'm the Executive Director of the Arts Council of Greater Lansing. It's great to see so many familiar faces and a lot of new faces that are supporting Rio Town and the Robin Theater and our Poet Laureate program. The Arts Council, we were fortunate enough to administer the arts around Lansing, but specifically the Lansing Poet Laureate program that was such a great thing that the Lansing Poetry Club, RCAH, and LEAP came up with back in 2017. We're very thankful to just be a part of it all, but I've been really impressed with just the outreach that we've had by our local poets to really make sure that this program is equitable and that it's reaching far to see who we can have represent our community. It's a great opportunity for me to just say that I want to thank my team who behind the scenes have been doing a lot of individual outreach to make sure that we're getting into new spaces with what we can do with poetry around Greater Lansing. And just making sure that we offer the technical assistance that it takes to be Poet Laureate, because it is a pretty rigorous process to become Poet Laureate. And I just want to thank them and all of our team from the Lansing Poetry Club and RCAH who really supported us while we went through this, and LEAP as well, who really set us up for success. So thank you so much from the Arts Council of Greater Lansing for being here and supporting our amazing former Poet Laureates as well as our incoming Poet Laureate. Next up, I want to introduce Terry Moonies, who's the Vice Board Chair of the Lansing Poetry Club.
Thank you so much for inviting the Poetry Club to be a part of this. I had a few minutes to just go through kind of what the Lansing Poetry Club has been about for the past almost 90 years. The Poetry Club was founded in 1938, and originally prospective members had to submit 3 poems to be approved, and they also had to be of good moral character. Things get different over time. But the mission was to contribute to the culture of the community by fostering interest in the appreciation of poetry and encouraging its expression among its members. In 2002, Ruelaine was a big part of the Old Town Poets group, and that really became a regular event. It really spoke to the richness of the art that was growing in Old Town. In 2015, Ruelaine became the president of the board, and it all just got bigger and better. We began holding events with featured poets and open mics. We have featured diverse poets from around the state, and we featured local favorites as well as and especially emerging new poets. We offer space to introduce them and a way to sell their books. Our opening mic is welcoming to anyone who wants to share their words with a supportive audience. We collaborate with RCAH, the Citizens for Prison Reform, the Refugee Development Center, and Loaves and Fishes Ministry. The LPC also coordinated with the Poetry Club of Chicago, and we produced 2 chapbooks called Words Across the Water, 1 and 2. The Lansing Poetry Club was also an organizer for the Ritzenheim Poetry Contest, and those awards were cash and publication of a chapbook, and I think we might have a winner or 2 sitting with us today. We organized our second Poets Roundtable last year, and we are working with ARCA and the Native American Institute at MSU to do another Poets Roundtable in October. Ruelaine is still our chair, and she continued her leadership throughout her Poet Laureate term while also coordinating the wonderful water contest. She organized the poetry and jazz events, which are now known as Pizzazz, and there'll be one Sunday at Urban Beat. And our monthly events, and she is also a member of Voices of the Revolution. Yeah. Woo! Yeah. So we still have 3 events left on our season for this year. April 19th, we will feature Natasha Thomas from Flint. On May 31st, we are featuring Linda Neiman Foster and Anne-Marie Oman, and they are doing a feature on the Lake Huron Mermaid. And on June 14th, we are featuring Jay's Poetry Group. And Jay Artemis Hall is a member of our board, and she does a poetry group that meets monthly at the library, and so they will be performing as our final on June 14th. All of our events happen at the University United Methodist Church in East Lansing, and all of this is done with donations and contributions, memberships. We pretty much operate on a shoestring, paperclip, and wad of gum. So we appreciate your support, and we are so happy to be here. We're so proud of Ruelaine and all that she has accomplished. And next up is Laurie Hollinger.
Hi, and thank you all for being here. What a special night. Oh my goodness. And thanks, Terry, for that wonderful wrap-up. So I'd like to take a moment first to thank a few more people. In addition to the fine folks at LEAP and the Arts Council, I really want to thank Dylan Rogers here for opening this incredible space for tonight's festivities, and for being such a gracious human to work with. I'd also like to thank Ari Colwyn, printer and teacher, for his seemingly bottomless generosity in producing the beautiful letterpress booklets that you found on your seats here tonight. He's done that for every passing of the Laurel that has occurred, and he does just an incredible job teaching students this fine art of letterpress printing. I'd also like to thank Terry Muniz and Cheryl Caesar for their mindful service on the selection committee for this term, on which I also served.
Yes, you did.
Finally, I'd like to thank everyone who applied for this position this round. Your interest and your passion for poetry are vital to our community, and I encourage you to stay involved and to apply again.
Yep.
So this will be a slight recap here and there, but bear with me. So in 2016, the founder and director of the Center for Poetry at MSU, Anita Skeen, and I worked with Ruelaine and the Lansing Poetry Club to establish a state poet laureate. We produced postcards to be sent. We talked to our local congressman, who told us that, yeah, great idea, but that's been sitting in the committee where bills go to die for a long time. And as Bob shared, Ruelaine brought that up with him, and he and LEAP stepped up in 2017 to establish a Lansing Poet Laureate program. Since then, the Center for Poetry has been honored to support the program through the selection of the first for Poets Laureate and to support the Arts Council's administration of the program. The Center for Poetry's mission includes keeping poetry accessible, and what better way than to support a local poet laureate. Each of our laureates has worked tirelessly beyond their terms to foster the growth of our region's poetry scene, whether it's through community poetry workshops that continue to challenge folks to craft richer and more thought-provoking and meaningful poetry, or through the Poetry Room, which has put Lansing prominently on the map of the broader spoken word and slam poetry world, and has mentored countless upcoming student poets. The RCAH Center for Poetry is proud and honored to play a part in the growth of our poetry community and to encourage and support the cross-pollination of poetry and spoken word as a community resource for all. There, okay, I know I have more pages, but I'm done with this part. At this time, I'd like to invite Lansing's inaugural Poet Laureate, Dennis Heinrichsen, to share a few thoughts.
Yeah. Dennis.
Hi, everybody. What a wonderful night. I was so proud to be the first Poet Laureate, but I'm even prouder now and happier now to be one of 5 laureates. I do, however, retain the honor of being the first Poet Laureate, the one and only Poet Laureate Emeritus, BP, before pandemic. It was a wild and crazy time. It's not like it was now. It was so energized. There was a 3-county effort. I was interviewed by 12 people. There were stakeholders in all 3 counties. I drove 2,000 miles. I wanted to give a sort of a highlights of all that, but basically what I did is I said yes for 2 years to whoever contacted me. Yeah. That was the project. Did a bunch of stuff. But I want to go back to the Neil Armstrong moment, that first small step for Poet Laureate into the community. And talk about what happened, because it was so staggeringly beautiful after the moment. I was there with Ruelaine. I was over in the Montessori school. We were doing a Poet in Schools gig. I had a bag of goodies. I hadn't taught in a long time, Poet in Schools. I was a little nervous about all the stuff I needed to negotiate as I interacted with all the community members. We're leaning against the wall, a line of students go by, they stop right next to me. There's a little girl up to my hip, she raises her arms and whacks me in the hip, looks up at me and goes, "Whose grandpa are you?" Thank you all for that. If I had Bob on speed dial, I would have called him and said, "Get me the hell out of here." But then we went into a classroom and we worked. The kids were really well trained. They wrote, they revised, they asked interesting questions, but there was one lone boy wandering the room. And he finally sat down with his teacher, and his teacher helped him generate a poem, and I went over and I forgot what I said to him. But as it turns out, it was his first poem he'd ever written. This was April, it was 9 years ago, this month. First poem he'd ever written. He was so chuffed it like Whitman had walked into the room and electrified him. He grabbed this old Pentax camera I had, put it around his neck and went around the classroom taking imaginary photographs. I was even more charmed. Just electrified. He was changed. And then he turned to me and said, "You make this happen." He didn't say that to me, but he acted in that manner. Or I chuck it. I had nothing to do with it. I had nothing to do with it. But when we shared poems, his hand went up and he shared, and he made sure I videotaped it. I have the video somewhere. When I said, "Let's do a group photograph," he raced across the room and grabbed me by the arm and pulled me into the center of the photograph, and then popped his body right next to mine so that nobody could get between us. And then when I said, "Let's give each other rabbit ears," he grabbed my arm and made me give him rabbit ears. And I thought, holy mackerel, this is poetry? Are you kidding me? Poetry is magic. Black marks on a white page. He's changed. He went through a portal. I don't know, I wanted to follow him after that. He was like different little boy. And then he turned to me, and he changed me. And neuron to neuron, this little community started building that we've seen explode here with the work Masaki's doing, with the work Ruelaine is doing. It's just pop, 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 pop. It's so amazing to be part of that. And then I wanted to read his poem. But first I want to thank everybody who made that possible. That was day one. Quantum physics says he and I are still entangled, and you can tell. I'm still charged by that. Whenever I was near burnout, I looked at the video because it fed me. Here's his poem. It's 4 lines. It reads like a compressed Shakespearean sonnet. It has so much smart stuff in it. He wants a blue finger. He wants to swim faster. He wants to fiddle the violin. He wants life to be better.
Yeah.
So, thank you, Art Committee people to name for allowing me that experience and for breaking this ice that is now, it's completing a decade. Are you kidding me? Bravo. It's my honor to welcome up to the stage the second poet laureate of Lansing, Laurie.
Well, I didn't come prepared for that many stories. If Dennis was the BP, the before pandemic poet, and Masaki was the AP, after pandemic poet, that makes me the PP, pandemic poet. Thanks, I'll reiterate to all the organizations and people who have made this possible. I don't need to say them all again. You've heard them several times. But I'm going to take a little bit different tack and say that, like many of you, I have spent much of today thinking about how we've been promised that a whole culture will be destroyed tonight. And it's not only the idea of it, it's the words of it, because words matter. And my time as the Poet Laureate reinforced my belief in words and the power of words. I was Poet Laureate at the start of the pandemic, and I'd just gotten my feet under me when they were knocked out from under all of us. And I learned very early how powerful words are to shape our experiences for better or for worse. In this case, it was for better. In my time as Poet Laureate, words were a lifeline. We did readings online, we did workshops online, we connected, had conversations, had tea and coffee and glasses of wine. We gave feedback to each other, and we performed poems against the backdrop of our own homes, our tables and sofas, accompanied by children and lots of pets. We learned to take in reality, hard as it was, and still keep alive our sense of community and our attachment to voices and words and lines. Thinking about the role that the new Poet Laureate will play in this period of unrest, this period of trauma, I'm glad we can trust each other in our poems, with our poems, to create change, to provide a sense of community, and to give us hope. Congratulations, Suban. Welcome to the Poet Laureate community. And I'm happy to introduce the third Poet Laureate. Everyone here, I'm sure, knows Masaki. This is his stage. This is his world. And so I'm going to welcome him up here to tell about his experience.
It's a new day in the poetry game, people. I'm so excited about this. Woo! Before I talk about whatever I do, I want to first say, Suban, I'm super proud of you. I said something nice. Said something nice right off the bat. The first black woman poet laureate of Lansing. Representation matters. When I came up here, I said I was the first person of color that people were like, whatever, dude. You don't laugh, but my soul kind of died that day. I'm proud to have written a recommendation for Suban.
Yes.
Meaning I am 100% of recommendations, 1 of 1. When Suban asked me, I also gave unsolicited feedback. And hear me out though, hear me out. This from one immigrant to another is a love language. It's a way of saying, hey, I care and I believe in you.
Yes.
If I didn't say anything about it, she'd be like, what's wrong? You don't think I'm gonna have it? I said, yeah, so I had to give her feedback, you know? And I know for a fact this isn't her first time applying. And isn't it like an immigrant to have to keep trying and to be resilient? I hope this sets the tone for your term, for you to get your vengeance. And everything you are owed. The only unsolicited advice I would want to give at this time is that 2 years go by really fast. The first 2 months is pretty much nothing but like press runs. But after that, you'll have 1,000,001 doors open. Choose the ones that align with your mission. I know you will pick the right ones. And know this, we're here if you ever want to spitball ideas. Serving as a poet laureate is not some kind of title or crown. It's a role to represent and serve your community. To serve is an honor. I had this honor for 2 years, and I wish, being the third one, I wish I had a little bit more guidance in what I was doing. It wasn't until the second year I really figured it out. So during my term, and I can't tell you what I did during my term and what I did after, because Dylan and I do so much together. I was like, what did we do during this time? What didn't we do, okay? But I want to say during my term, I spent every penny of my stipend on coaching and workshops to get better at my craft. So shout outs to Bob from Leap, for writing those checks, and the Arts Council. Y'all sent me to so many slam competitions where I did get killed in the first round and didn't even whatever. I just gotta be honest, but I did my best and got better every time. This cemented me as a national slam poet, connecting with some of the most brilliant contemporary poets. And we became friends, and they would come to feature at the Poetry Room in Lansing. Rudy Francisco, Ebony Stewart, Sierra Freeman, who became a Cleveland Poet Laureate, Eris Can, who becomes Houston Poet Laureate. Many of them came here to support us, and because they wanted to see what Lansing is all about. Even before I became Poet Laureate, I was serving the community. Showing up, organizing, hosting events, and by within less than a year, I did all the things that was on that contract that was asked for me to do. Being Poet Laureate gave me the platform and resources to do those things while growing my skills. After my term, I had the opportunity to bring Neil Hilborn back for the 5th time to Lansing, recording videos with Button Video, alongside with Claire Donahoe, who also got her Button Video as well. If you don't know what Button is, it's a huge poetry platform on YouTube. And all of this builds into something bigger, not just for myself, but the entire community. Suban, I know you will do an incredible job. We're here to support you as you've supported many others. I love that you are announced as Poet Laureate at the same time Renegade Theater announces their return. Suban actually gave my name to Melissa to Renegade for back in 2017. And that's right before the Poetry Room's first open mic. That helped launch us and create a foundation for what it is today. So thank you, Suban, for being who you are, always helping, always supporting, and always giving back. And as I told you before, you were pretty drunk on the May of 22 after that event. When we were talking about being Poet Laureate. We talked about being Poet Laureate, and I told you, we were only just keeping the seat warm for you. So congrats.
Thanks, Dennis, Laura, Masaki. Oh, come on. Are you serious? Rose, are you here? Hey, There's nobody this short. Or nobody that tall. Anyway, so now, it is my great honor and delight to introduce our outgoing Lansing Poet Laureate, Ruelaine Stokes. As most of you know, Ruelaine has been instigating poetry in our community for decades, and there's going to be a little rerun of information here because Terry gave you a preview. So for decades, from organizing open mic poetry readings at Hobie's in 1990s East Lansing, to the Old Town Poetry Series in the aughts and teens of the 21st century. Ruelaine taught English as a second language in both university and community classrooms before retiring. A little over 10 years ago, her dedication to poetry helped revitalize Lansing's oldest poetry organization, the Lansing Poetry Club, as Terry mentioned, bringing guest poets in monthly for readings followed by open mics. And she's managed all this while continually working on her own practice, administering community poetry contests, performing with our feminist spoken word collective, Voices of the Revolution, and always dreaming up the next poetry initiative. Her term as Lansing Poet Laureate has been a whirlwind of major initiatives, and I'm honestly not certain if she'll be interested in slowing her roll anytime soon. Friends, please help me welcome Lansing's 4th Poet Laureate, Ruelaine Stokes.
Dylan, aren't you going to help me here?
You don't need my help.
I have adored being the Poet Laureate. And really, I thought it was going to be a burden. You know, I was prepared for angst. I was prepared for my own perfectionism. I was prepared for everybody else's perfectionism. And I just said to myself, cool it. You're not going to be neurotic about this. Just embrace it. Have a great time. And it's been lovely. It's been just lovely. We have a video, a really cool video by Scotty Altman of the Poetry on the Pathway at Tollgate. It's a beautiful video. And so my remarks need to be short so I don't go on too long. It's taken me a day and a half to try and make short remarks because I want to tell you everything. I want to tell you absolutely everything, and if I do, we'll be here for days, and Suban will hate me. So that's not going to happen. It's been wonderful. It's been such... I want to tell you just a few things, and then I'll get into my notes. The great thing is, even people who don't know what a poet laureate is, think it's something cool. And so you get a lot of warmth and positivity, even from people who aren't sure who you are or what this laureate thing is about. That's really cool. You have lots and lots of interesting, fascinating conversations with people you've never met before. You might be in the pet store and somebody says, "Aren't you the poet?" And then there's this long conversation that ensues that's really interesting that you'd never predict. There's just a wonderful, wonderful things that come up. I wanted to tell you a little bit about some of the highlights of what I did and why they mattered to me, and I'll try to keep it brief. Some of this Terry mentioned, but it's been tremendously exciting to me to work with Lois Muma and Greg Hill on creating a poetry and jazz series. Lois and Greg were the co-founders of the Jazz Alliance of Michigan. Greg is a wonderful jazz musician, a brilliant composer, and Lois is just a force, a brilliant organizer. We started out at the Blue Owl. Finally it got too small. We're now at Urban Bee. We launched it last month. We're now calling it Pizzazz. And I love saying pizzazz. Pizzazz, an afternoon of poetry and jazz. Our next concert will take place this coming Sunday from 4 to 6 with Carlton Evans and Cruz Villarreal doing poetry, and Sarah D'Angelo on vocals, Cliff Monier on the jazz piano. So we did it in March. It was absolutely fabulous. A couple other things I wanted to mention that mean a lot to me. This year, I also really wanted to build on the work of Rosalie Petrowski. Rosalie was an enormously gifted poet and friend who passed away in 2023. She was also a board member on the Lansing Poetry Club. And in 2022, she wrote a grant to organize a really major poetry reading by Native American poets, and also a workshop. The program was utterly brilliant. Tragically, she passed away in 2023. This year, I really wanted to help build on the foundation that she created for us. So we, the Lansing Poetry Club, have collaborated with the Native American Alliance at MSU and with the RCAH Center for Poetry at MSU to host a reading by 3 emerging Indigenous poets. We had a big audience. The young poets were just fabulous. It means a lot. Another of Rosalie's great ideas was back in 2020. She came to me with this idea, and I realized quickly that she was not going to stop talking until I said yes. The idea was for the Poets Roundtable, a one-day poetry contest for poetry conference with workshops, which we produced in January 2020 during a blizzard. And we had an enormous number of people came. It was very, very successful. This year, we collaborated with the RCAH Center for Poetry to bring in the Michigan Poet Laureate, because Michigan finally figured out they needed a Poet Laureate. The Poet Laureate is Dr. Melba Joyce Boyd. She was the keynote speaker for the roundtable, and we had fabulous workshop leaders, Laura Apal, Esther Berlin, Sarah Carson, and Anita Skeen. We had a big crowd there. It was really a wonderful event. Also next October, the Native American Institute, the RCAH Center for Poetry, and the Poetry Club are planning for the Poets Roundtable. We're going to feature 2 major Native American poets, Mark Turcott, who is now the Poet Laureate of the state of Illinois. He was born in Lansing, and he spent his high school years in Potterville. Brilliant man. And also Dr. Gordon Henry, Jr., who taught for ages, fabulous, renowned poet, plus Nicole Kiwi Bieber, who is the organizer of the Mid-Michigan Clean Water Action, if I have that right. Okay. Okay, but the biggest thing I've been doing is that I won a laureate fellowship from the Academy of American Poets, and that provided money. It was little or no money, but I must admit, it's nice to have money. It's really, really, really nice. It makes you think about big things. One big thing is the We Are Water Poetry Contest and the poetry signs on the pathway at Tollgate, which you'll see in the video. The other thing, it also provides funding for me to write a book and try to get smart. So hopefully that will happen. I think I'm out of things to say. Can we show Scott's really cool video? Thanks so much. Also, I could not be more grateful. It really takes a village to do something like this. It takes a village. There are so many people whose creativity, imagination, and hard work has come into this project. I'm so very grateful to all of you. Thank you.
All right, we're going to try something. Fancy.
I am Ruelaine Stokes. I'm the current Lansing Poet Laureate, and I'm here at Tollgate Drain because we're installing the winning poetry signs that are permanently installed here at Tollgate. It's a very, very, very exciting project. The idea was to make poetry visible. Poetry is an ancient, one of the most ancient art forms, but it's one that we often ignore. And I thought there has to be a way that makes it impossible to ignore poetry. And making these beautiful signs, we have gorgeous photographic background from Tollgate that was taken by Kim Kaufman. We have 6 winning poets. I'm really excited. This is a big deal. Last summer, I launched a poetry contest called the We Are Water Poetry Contest because the Tollgate Drain is all about water. It's all about collecting stormwater runoff and using natural materials to remove the pollution from that water. So the contest was all about water. We Are Water. We put out the information about the contest all over the Tri-County area. We got 241 poems, and out of that 241 poems, the judges chose 6 winning poems. We're installing them today. We're really, really happy and excited to bring poetry to Tollgate. This poem is Alone But Together at Tollgate, and it was written by Melody Wright. Melody is a Michigan writer who was a former park ranger, and when you read the poem you can see that she has a fabulous idea for those little and incredibly vivid details about nature. It's beautifully woven together, and it's the way we can be here alone, but we feel connected to all of nature. So in a way, we realize we aren't alone at all. This poem is titled This Is Not a Park, and it's by Dana Hardy. Dana is a music education student at MSU, and the poem is speaking in the voice of the Tollgate Drain. And it's saying, I am not a park, I am not a jewel-encrusted beach. And it just goes on to talk with really incredibly vivid metaphors about what is happening here in the drain, in the wetlands. This is a gorgeous poem by Tim Lane. The title is I've Begun to Run Out of Ideas, Good or Bad. And what I love about this poem, it's the most internal of all the poems. It talks about how our minds sort of drift between wordlessness and the search for words, finding words, sometimes the words escaping. It's really, really beautiful. You'll notice there are bees in the photograph, and also there's this beautiful silhouette of a bee in the stand itself. I love the resonance of the poems, the photography, and the signs, and then this beautiful, beautiful wetlands here. It's all working together.
Nice.
This poem is called The Drain Remembers, and it's by Kendall Stillwell. Kendall is an undergraduate student at MSU, interested in veterinary science, and she gave a voice to the drain itself, to the water. The first line I adore, I am a mirror that swallowed the sky. She captures the way in which water becomes mirror-like and reflects everything around it. It's a beautiful poem. This poem is titled Reflection. It's by Daisy Roberts, who's a new resident in the Lansing area. She's a yoga instructor, nature lover, and poet. Beautiful, beautiful poem, beautiful photography by Kim Kaufman. Photography is about Tollgate, and the poems also are writing about Tollgate. And I love the way the poetry signs are communicating with, extending the conversation with the wetlands itself. It's cool. This poem is called Ducks, and I love the first line. The first line is, the ducks do not care that we are here. It's really, they can live their lives in peace because it's such a peaceful area. I love it that the photographer, Kim Kaufman, had photographed a duck here. You can see it's peeking out from behind the poem. And also, down on the base of the sign, there's the silhouette of a duck. So we've got a lot of residents here. It's a beautiful poem by Jasmine Snow. Jasmine is in the master's program at MSU working in journalism. One of the things I really like about this poem are the lines right in the center that ask the question, what is a poem to a pond? Love, I think. All of the poems here at Tollgate are love poems to this beautiful nature preserve, this beautiful drain that purifies the water using natural means, and love poems to this particular place, this particular time here on Earth. Tollgate is a free, public mini park that functions as a stormwater drain, but it's beautiful. You would not even know that it was a drain. There are beautiful ponds here, beautiful walking paths. It's free to the public. Come, stroll around, walk your dog, ride a bike, bring your kids. It's a beautiful, beautiful area to visit. The Poetry Pathway project would not have been possible without funding from the Academy of American Poets and also amazing support from the Ingham County Drain Commissioner, Patrick Lindeman, who saw the potential for bringing art to the Ingham County drains. Also the Arts Council of Greater Lansing, which sponsors the Lansing Poet Laureate, the RCAH Center for Poetry at MSU, which has helped me think through the project, provided enormous support all along the way, and the Lansing Poetry Club, which provides the community connection. And of course, LEAP, the Lansing Economic Area Partnership, which funds the Lansing Poet Laureate. So a lot of people to thank, a lot of people have made this possible.
Are we gonna try this now?
other. Hello, everyone. How's everybody doing
Oh,
tonight?
tall person.
For those of you who don't know me, come on, let's try that again. How's everyone doing tonight? Yeah, this is really special. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Toby Altman. I'm the director of the RCAH Center for Poetry. It's really a pleasure to be here and to introduce our guest of honor, Suban Nur Cooley. Before I do so, I want to say thank you to two people. First of all, Laurie Hollinger. Laurie has been working tirelessly behind the scenes to make this event happen. It truly would not have happened without her. And having all of us gathered together in this space to celebrate Lansing and its poetry community is a testament to Laurie's abiding commitment and love for that poetry community. So we're very lucky to have Laurie with us and to have her supporting this initiative. I also want to say just one word about Ruelaine, our outgoing laureate, before I turn to Suban. She has done extraordinary things in her time as laureate. I think it's fair to say her work has literally reshaped the city, as you just saw. And she also brought national attention and national money into our community. That really matters to all of us, I think. And it seems to me a kind of statement of what the Poet Laureate program at its best can do and has done through the tenure of each of our Poet Laureates. In recognizing an individual, in honoring the extraordinary gifts that these laureates have made and continue to make to our community, we not only lift them up, we lift all of the boats in our community. So the appointment of Suban Nur Cooley as laureate seems like another such moment. Suban's presence as a leader in our community and as a poet lifts all of us up. And what I want to take a moment to do here is just to introduce you to Suban's work as a poet and to say what I think is special about what she does in poetry. Suban has a singularly poetic gift, of taking a moment, apparently something small, and magnifying it so that we can see the hurt and the history embedded within it. I'll give you an example. In Universally Alien, one of her poems, she juxtaposes a, quote, visitors parking only sign with a sticker of the Statue of Liberty's face surrounded by the words, refugees, Muslims, women, LGBTQ, people of color, immigrants, hashtag all are welcome. Her touch is light. She doesn't comment on the juxtaposition between the sign and the sticker or explain what it means. Instead, she lets the weight of the juxtaposition arrive gradually as we ponder why these two things are next to each other in the poem, what they mean together. That capacity for attention and precision, tact, delicacy, allows her poems to tackle weighty and difficult themes of migration and displacement, diasporic Black life, and the tensions of family and faith, without ever succumbing to generalizations or slogans. But if Suban has a deft, lyrical touch, she is equally comfortable engaging with critical theory, speaking an academic language, but speaking it in and as poetry. In her spoken word piece, Black Diasporas Are a Call and Response to the Continent, she cites the theorist Kevin Quashie's Black aliveness, then insists, quote, there is a power in how call and response can fuel, fill, and robustly rebuild the noises and lingerings of the continent. It is hard to cite theory in a poem, let alone in a spoken word poem, but Suban makes it sing, makes it speak to and with her audience. And it is clear that she is thinking about her audience, imagining what her poems will mean to the people who receive them, how they might increase, however slightly, the measure of freedom and justice in our world. Surveying the body of work as a whole, what strikes me is Suban's capacity to speak to the full range of poetry communities in and around Lansing, from the Lansing Poetry Club to the Poetry Room to MSU, school kids, everybody. And Suban's work reminds us that whatever divides there are between us as poets, We are also united by our love for and commitment to poetry as an art, a community, and a social practice. Suban has been doing this work in Lansing for a long time, performing, teaching, and leading by example. I admire Suban's work as a poet, her leadership as a community member and thinker, but above all, I believe in her warmth and generosity as a person. As Poet Laureate, she will be the kind of leader who not only proposes to bring people together, but does so through the strength of the personality and the warmth of her example. So please welcome our new Poet Laureate, Suban Nur Cooley.
Credit. Sorry to this man. Here we are. And all my students are here. Shout out. Good evening, everyone. I want to begin with gratitude to the outgoing Poet Laureate, my always neighbor and friend, Ruelaine Stokes. Thank you for your stewardship of language in this city, for reminding us that poetry is not only something we read, but something we live. To the Arts Council, the Arca Center for Poetry, Lansing Economic Area Partnership, and the Lansing Poetry Club, thank you for your care, your belief in the arts, and for creating the conditions where something like this is possible. Thank you also to Dylan for creating a vibrant space for art and collective conversation, building community here in Lansing. To everyone gathered here today, my friends, my family, I'm going to get emotional, fellow artists, and community members, thank you for being here to witness this moment with me. It is not lost on me what it means to stand here. As a Black woman, as a Somali woman, as someone who has called Lansing home for 20 years this year. Right? This moment feels both deeply personal and deeply collective. I carry my family, my communities, my students, I love y'all, my family too, and my friends. I love you all. And this city with me into this role. I have raised my child here. I have become a poet here. I have learned how to listen here. And so to be named Poet Laureate of Lansing is not just an honor, it is a responsibility. A responsibility to language, a responsibility to people, and a responsibility to place. And I take that seriously. I believe poetry lives everywhere, because I also lived everywhere thanks to my parents. It lives in the rivers that run through this city, cheesy, I know, along with many other organisms we don't have to talk about today. It lives in the stories we carry, it lives in the quiet moments of survival, and the loud moments of joy like tonight. And so during my term, my vision is to make poetry visible, not just on stage or in books, but in the everyday spaces of gathering in Greater Lansing. One way I hope to do that is through a reading series I'm calling Pop-Up Poetry. Pop-Up Poetry brings poetry into spaces where people already gather. Coffee shops, breweries, markets, greenhouses, through themed, site-specific readings. Let's say a theme like brew might bring us into local cafes and breweries to explore ritual, warmth, and community. A theme like go green, I know, you know, might take us into spaces like Horrocks or local greenhouses like Van Atta's, where poetry can engage growth, care, and our relationship to land. These gatherings are about meeting people where they are and reminding us that poetry is already part of our daily lives. I am also excited to launch a workshop series called, this is not, invigorating at all, Poetry in Motion. I'm thinking a stroll, a walk, or a hike. Hiking-based poetry experiences that invite us to move through the city together while engaging language. We'll stroll through downtown, that would be the strolling one. Walk through local parks like Francis Park, or hike along nearby trails the ledges, Birchfield, pausing along the way for poems, reflection, and conversation. Poetry in Motion asks, what happens when we experience poetry not sitting still, but in movement? How does language shift when we encounter it alongside the rhythms of our bodies, the sounds of the city, or the quiet of nature? It's an opportunity to connect more deeply with place, with each other, and with ourselves. I also want to create spaces where people can see themselves in poetry. This is no surprise to anyone, but I'm just going to rattle it on. This includes young people, newcomers to the city, and communities who may not always see their stories reflected in traditional literary spaces. With that, I hope to engage in workshops built on relationships that already exist. Through my work at All of the Above Hip Hop Academy, I'm excited to continue supporting youth voices and spoken word traditions. With Salas Center, I hope to create affirming poetry spaces that center 2S LGBTQIA+ voices and explore identity, belonging, and self-expression through language. At the Refugee Development Center, I hope to create spaces where newcomers can share stories of migration, memory, and belonging. With the Nokomis Center and Fenner Nature Center, I hope to create poetry experiences rooted in land, where language meets history, where we listen more deeply, and where we reflect on our relationships to place, memory, and Indigenous presence. Across all of this work, I am committed to collaborating with poets and artists from these communities, from this community, ensuring these spaces are shaped with intention, care, and cultural knowledge from those who live, know, and carry these experiences. I believe poetry is a form of welcome, a sharing of self with others, a way of saying, your story matters, your voice belongs here. At the same time, I am committed to poetry as an art form, to craft, to experimentation, to pushing the boundaries of what poetry can be. As someone grounded in Black diasporic and Somali oral traditions, I understand poetry as something we carry across time, across space, across generations. Fuck borders. Yeah. It is something we inherit, something we transform, something we pass on. Before I close, I want to share a poem.
Yeah. Let's go.
Title, Aging Roads. We have named the potholes. The one on the corner of Mount Hope and MLK is a meet your maker, reverence required, concentration and weather permitting, miss. Miss when I could lose myself in thought, focus on nothing and get to where I need. Miss it and you won't have to turn your music all the way down after connecting with the edges of its depth. A plastic bag mimics a squirrel frantically deciding between directions, the chimera of coffee as a cure for insomnia. I am now on Waverly. This pothole has babies. Following her like a row of ducklings behind a mother. Mother, may I please not hit this one? Not today. It takes a series of practicabilities, control, connection, not communicating what you need, but saying it in a roundabout way. Back rubs, belly aches, laughter and loss of memory. Singing and remembering people in different timelines and moments. Grief, suspended and dense. Grief, unfolding and unyielding. What do we do for others in place of what we need for ourselves? Cleaning, adorning, color. Shopping, stream of consciousness and notions for inspiration. Black people can smell the rain coming. The weather as phenomena, as survival. Generosity as an end to self. Thank you. Felt like a Michigan thing to talk about that. As I step into this role, I am not arriving alone. I am arriving with a huge community. And my hope is that over the next 2 years, we can continue to build something together. Something rooted in care, creativity, and connection. Something that reminds us that poetry is not separate from our lives. It is a way of living. Thank you for trusting me with this role. I am honored to serve as Lansing's next Poet Laureate.
you, Suban.
Like to give her one more. Just give her. Before I wrap up, Dennis, Laura, Misaki, Ruelaine are already here. Suban, would you mind coming to the stage? And a photo, of course. And as you're doing so, on behalf of the Lansing Area Economic Partnership, the Arts Council of Greater Lansing, the Lansing Poetry Club, and the RCAH Center for Poetry, thank you all so much for coming out tonight.
We love you, Suban!
Thank you, Dylan, and the Robin Theater for this amazing venue, and our laureates, Emeriti, Dennis, Laura, Misaki, and Ruelaine. And welcome. Congratulations, Suban.
Thank you.